I'm tuned in to today's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. Listen, we have a great show lined up for you. I'm your host, Kim Jacobs, better known as the Balance Doctor. And all of our guests that come on, they're either people that have overcome some tremendous odds in their own lives as they balance this thing called life, or they're experts and they're here to share tips and strategies that will help you better balance and manage your life. Grab your virtual seats and let's get ready for some real relevant and relatable content on today's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. We're so excited to have you all here today with us. And Sandra, thank you for being our guest today. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for inviting me.
I am so honored to have you. We have a personal friend, Pastor Selwyn Davis, and his wife, a lady Cassandra Davis. So I was so excited to see you come through as one of the guests that would be here on the show today. And I think that people are in for a tremendous treat. So as you all are grabbing your virtual seats, let us know where you're visiting in from as well, so we can acknowledge you and thank you for being here and all that we have that we're going to be discussing today. I'm going to just jump right in and talk about this hope dealer. And I have actually, I want to put my glasses on because I don't want to do it any injustice. And ultimately, I will take people to your website because I love this website. But she's a native of Lee County, South Carolina. So for some of you that are throughout the different countries, you may not know where that Lee County is, but it's in the South Carolina area. And the daughter and the only child of Ethel and late Johnny E. Gamble. Her childhood, I'm going to let her share some of the things she experienced so that I don't take away from her own backstory. But she enjoys reading and traveling and meeting new people and serving God. Her natural love and compassion for helping others is healing is what is all about, healing. And that's the fuel that continues to motivate her in her desire to help remove any stigma associated with things that get placed from society. She has over 20 years of experience, and she is capable of identifying, diagnosing, and creating a treatment plan to assist with any of the following. That's intake, transitional counseling, mental health consultant with depression, anxiety, and trauma, family independence case manager, and addiction. So welcome, Sandra, with all of your God-given talents to the Kim Jacobs Show.
Thank you so much. So much.
All right. So where do we begin? Let's go back and just learn more about Sandra and your childhood years. I see a lot in your bio, but I want you to be able to verbalize your own story.
Sure. So before we get in depth, let me go ahead and announce exactly who I am. My name is Sandra Gamble, also known as the Hope Dealer. Some people sell dope. I'm just out here dealing hope.
Okay. Now, well, before you go into the backstory, then you cannot make that comment without telling us why hope versus dope.
The reason why there is hope versus dope, of course, dope is toxic and hope is healing. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, because of my life experiences, I have had to learn how to have hope in hopeless situations. And hope for me simply means having only positive expectations.
That's interesting you say that, a positive expectation. Doesn't mean that everything that happens to us will be a positive experience, but having that positive expectation and walking in the knowledge of knowing that there's still hope in the aftermath, that's
Right.
a beautiful way to word it. So
Right.
being a hope dealer came from some of your personal life experiences that kind of left you hopeless.
Yes, absolutely. There were situations where there were times when I felt hopeless and I felt lost and I felt abandoned. So yes.
And now anybody in the studio audience too, if you can relate to what she's sharing, just put a heart or some type of acknowledgement letting us know that you too may have experienced some hopeless situations. But after today's episode, hopefully you'll realize that we can have only positive expectations for what's still yet to come in our future. So,
Right.
Sandra, when you were younger growing up, what was your life like?
Okay, so I grew up in a two-parent household,
Mhm.
and from the outside, it looked as if we had the American dream.
Mhm.
We had the acre of land and the freshly built home with the manicured yard. But the reality of it is that looks can be so deceiving because inside my home,
Mm.
um, I was living a nightmare, and my father was the monster, if you will.
So
Yeah,
out on for the outer appearance, everything looked like the American dream. This is a beautiful place, a beautiful family, and somewhere most people would be proud to call home.
right, right. And we would go to church every single Sunday.
Okay.
But what people didn't know is my father, and what I didn't understand as a child was my father was sick. My father, I later found out, had bipolar manic depressive disorder with psychotic features, which came years later.
Mm,
But during that time of growing up, I was never validated by my dad. I was told by him that he did not want me, that he wanted a boy. And I had no self esteem because he would say things like, "You're dumb, you're stupid, you're ugly, you will never be anything, you will never amount to anything." And because he was my father, I believed it. I didn't have the tools to change it.
mm.
And not only was he verbally abusive towards myself and my mother, he was physically abusive toward us as well. Horrific abuse, to the place where he would burn my hair out. And yes, and he would spit in his tea and make me drink it. And so I was living a lie. Outside in society, people people were envious of what we had or what they thought we had, but inside the home, um again, I was living a nightmare, my mother and I. Yeah.
So when you would go to school, because you still went to the things that were just regular everyday things that children do, right? So you would go to school. Were you ever tempted to tell someone in the administration that this was happening at home, or any other adult figure that you would trust to talk to someone about this? Or how did you handle that as a young
Well,
child?
well, the weird thing about it is, we are taught in our homes as to what happens in our home stays in our home.
Of course.
Yes. And the one time I did divulge to my bus driver, unbeknownst to me, she knew my father, and she went back and told him.
Oh, whoa.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So people
Yes.
that you thought the person you thought you could trust went back and actually get had some things become more detrimental to you because they went and confided in the person that was the situation being caused by in that instance.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I got
Yeah.
punished for it. Yeah.
So that person never reported it or got you some proper help. They just took it back to inside the home and dealt with it that way. Which got
Right.
you further. Oh my goodness. Now what about even, like, because you and your mom, this is all, again, the views that are expressed here on the Kim Jacobs show are based on the guests and their own encounters and their own testimonies. It's not necessarily reflective of the show or me as a host or anything. But what I want to make sure I understand is your mom, because she was going through this with you during this same season of your life. She was experiencing it from a spouse perspective, correct?
Correct.
So how did she handle it with you and her going through this together? Did she have private meetings with you? Did she say, "Listen, baby, we're gonna get through this"? I'm trying to visualize because I really cannot visualize what's happening here. This is quite a bit.
Right. She was so broken as well. My mother was a teenage mom, you
Mhm.
know, so she thought that she was doing what was right by me having both parents. Um, and I want to speak to someone that may be in an abusive relationship. I have to say this, and I'm not an advocate of divorce, but sometimes staying can be more detrimental to the child than leaving.
Mm.
Divorce saved my life, and I'm sure it saved my mom's life as well.
Thank you. Mm. And I'm not an advocate for divorce either. And I do agree though that there are obviously circumstances that merit it for whatever the reason, even if it's not our desire for it to happen, it still ends up needing to happen in some regards for you, and like you and your mom to, in that case, survive. So your mom ultimately took the steps to divorce your dad. Is that what happened, you're saying?
After years of going, leaving, and coming back. And again, there's so much, I think women, there's so much pressure on women.
Mm.
A lot of times is even when we're in unhealthy, toxic relationships, we tend to feel as if we could possibly fix it, you
Yeah.
know. And if the relationship ends, then somehow I've failed. And my mom never said that, but that's what I felt. I felt like she would say to herself, if this ends, then I failed.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she was going to blame herself. So she kept coming back and attempting to make it work and keep the household together and keep the well manicured lawn and just make it be as best as it can be, even if it caused some suffering on her behalf.
And my father would promise to change.
Okay.
He would promise that he wouldn't do it again. So it would
Mm.
be this honeymoon phase where things would be fine for a while, and then they would go back to what they were before, because what's in us is going to come out of us.
Every time, every
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So the advice that you have for women, that because now you would be obviously as a child perspective then, but you're a whole adult now with lots of backing to say what you're about to say. What advice would you give women that are dealing with domestic violence and even child violence in the home? Because not only is the adult experiencing the violence, but the child is experiencing it too and suffering at the hands of some of their parental debates or violent attacks or whatever is happening. What advice would you give people to get out of that situation safely?
I would say to women, um, that you owe it to yourself
Mhm.
to not devalue who God created you to be.
Mm.
And when you're with a person that devalues who you are, then that's not a reflection of God. You know, there's a scripture that says the blessing of the Lord makes us rich and adds no sorrow. And if
That's
there's
right.
more sorrow than riches, then that probably not is a God ordained relationship.
That's
And
right.
also, your children have to grow up
Mm.
and deal with the residue of the past. So not only are you having to deal with it, your children are going to become adults
That's
and they're going to have to deal with it. And they're going to be dysfunctional if they don't seek help and get the treatment that they need in order to be successful in society. So
right.
you're responsible for that child, and that child should not have to suffer because of selfish motives.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So even if it's not necessarily something you want to get out of, but the child is suffering and you can see that, and the child may or may not make it through some of the abuse that happens to them, then consider the child too, is what you're saying. That's
Yes.
that's very important. That's good. Great advice that you're sharing. So ultimately, you and your mom did get out. Was there some type of plan in place that she told you, hey, this is when it's going down, this is how it's going to happen? How did it end up happening that you were able to get out safely?
Okay, so I went to her and at 13, because I've always been a good student,
Okay.
and my grades had started to plummet. And it was to the place where I didn't care anymore. I started to not care. And I started to be rebellious a little bit and self-sabotaging, but because I was acting out, I was
Right.
acting out because I needed to be rescued.
Mm.
And I said to her, I said, I don't care about these grades. I don't care about this house. I don't care about this having my own room. I want peace.
Mm. Mm.
And in that moment, it's almost like she got it.
Good.
And we packed up a few things. My mom called her nephew. He came with the truck, and luckily my mom's nephew is big. He used to play football, so my dad,
Okay.
wasn't going to deal with him like that.
Okay.
And but we could only get our clothes. He would not allow us to get
Mm.
anything else other than our clothes, and we left it all. And I remember staying with her brother and sharing a room with her, and I was the happiest person on the planet.
And that when you say the happiest person on the planet, that puts me, I can almost visualize a teenage girl, 13, and so grateful to be away from home, but at a new home. So what that makes me visualize the joy that comes with knowing that you're safe is what I can kind of visualize. Is that what was
Yes,
making you so happy?
yes, and the fact that our our house, our home looked like a home,
Mm.
but it wasn't a home. It wasn't a safe space. It wasn't a place of rest. It wasn't a place of peace, because
Mm.
that's what I consider a home. You
Right.
know, it wasn't a place where I got validated. You know, so it was a house,
Mm.
and when we went and shared this room in a trailer, it was a home because it had
Wow.
everything.
Wow. So that somebody type that in the comment section that there's a difference between a house and a home. And what is that difference, even for some of you all in the studio audience? Chime in and let us know. Act like you're coming up to the mic and talking for a minute. What is the difference between a house and a home? A house, according to what you're saying, looks like it's well put together. It looks like it's got everything that it needs to make everyone on the inside happy. But at the end of the day, is some broken, fragmented things going on inside that house that lends to people's unhappiness. That's really good. But a home is where love is. A home is where peace is, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
And
Let's
and
see.
and so many people, I'm sorry,
No,
so
go
many
ahead.
people sell, because there's a price for everything, right? And
Hmm.
being a counselor, so many women sell their peace for an illusion.
I love that point. Nobody wants to live in an illusion. Just like now you see me, now you don't, all of that drama. What in the world? Just be what it is for real, right?
Right.
Oh my gosh. I see a lot of comments coming in. So we're going to definitely, y'all keep your comments coming in. We're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk to some of your points. And again, we have Sandra Gamble here, who is an expert at this point. She has learned quite a bit to be able to share some tips and expert advice with us today on how to deal with depression, anxiety, and a lot of things that we're going to talk about in our second half here. So it's a pleasure to see you all in the studio audience. Make sure you all go ahead and type your comments and share the broadcast. Tag your friends, okay? We will be right back right after this break. Sandra, thank you so much for everything you're already sharing, too. This is really
My
good.
pleasure.
My father had 4 of his fingers amputated in a workplace accident. It was the first injured individual I represented, and I knew I had to win that case. When someone walks into my office and they've been injured, I know what they're going through. If you've been injured at work with Hunter and Everett. We've got the experience, so let us help you.
All right, everyone, we are back. And we're talking with Sandra Gamble today, who's sharing her journey of being not a dope dealer, but a hope dealer and a purpose pusher. And so some of the people came into the studio audience and shared some great comments. So let's see. I see you, Vanita. Vanita said, and maybe you can address some of these, Sandra, as well. I was abused by both of my parents. Only my brother was abused by our dad. My mom was abused by my dad, and she would not put him out until he tried to kill me, meaning Vanita.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I just want to say to Vanita, I am so sorry that you had to experience that. I don't know where your journey is, but I just want to say to you that we can never expect healing at the hands that hurt us. And so you're not responsible for your pain, but you certainly are responsible for your healing.
Thank you, Lord. What wonderful advice. And how do you recommend that people, Sandra, heal or even just start the process of healing, because it is a process, it's a journey. How do you recommend that people start that with their first few steps to get to the healing side of the equation?
Okay. I can speak from my own personal experiences. I had to first acknowledge the abuse and the damage that it caused me.
Okay.
So acknowledgement is first important. I had to get honest and say I was angry. I felt I know what happened to me was unfair, you
Right.
know, and I had to acknowledge that a lot of times we don't want to honor our feelings. We don't, but in order to heal, we must feel. We
Mm.
must feel.
In order
And
to heal, we must feel. Somebody type that in the
yes,
comment section.
yes,
Look at
yes,
these quotes coming from Sandra. In order to heal, you must feel first. And then, okay,
yes, yes. And find you a trusted
good.
therapist. Find you some professional help, a person that's non-biased, who's neutral, who can provide you with tools and come alongside you as you walk this journey out.
Mm, okay.
Yes. And I'm a counselor, and so I had this t-shirt made up that we need Christ, a counselor, and a couch.
Christ, a counselor, and a couch. Y'all, where can people get that t-shirt, Sandra?
Oh, it's on my website.
Okay. Christ, counselor,
And a couch.
and a couch. Okay.
Yes.
So you got to get that t-shirt, okay?
Yeah. And so that's the first step. And it is ugly. We have to revisit our past,
Right.
because if we don't, if we mask it, at some point we're going to create the very thing that we ran from,
Mm.
because we are creatures of habit, right?
Yeah,
And so we live what we learn
that's right.
until we unlearn what we live.
Mm. Do you sit
Yeah.
around and come up with these quotes all day? Because there's some good stuff you say. Some great helpful tips. Okay, so find that professional help. Don't feel like you have to go at it alone, and also making sure that you acknowledge what you're dealing with. I'm looking here. I want to pop these up because those are already two initial steps, baby steps that you need to take to acknowledge where you are, and then also seek that professional help. This is advice that Sandra's giving as we are going forward with just the start of healing. Any other tips that you want to share right now pertaining to that? Or we can go to the next comment or question.
And healing is ugly. I call it getting in your trash can,
Mm,
the trash can of your life. But the benefit of healing, the reason I can sit before you now is now you are equipped to go out and help.
mm, that's
And,
good.
and that's the charge. Heal so you can help.
Mm. And by how do you know that you are healed enough to help? Because sometimes it seems like people, and we always hear people are either in a storm or they're going into a storm or they're just coming out of a storm. And so we hear that all the time. But how do you know that in the midst of your own healing journey, that now is the time for you to help others through their healing process?
When I can sit and share my experiences and not be emotional.
Mm. Not be emotional at all? Oh, girlfriend, we need to role play then because you're like, wait. So I'm looking at you, right? So this is the sideways role play. So if I'm talking about something that I think I'm healed from, but I'm still emotional about it because it's something that is an emotional situation. How do I know that how do I know that I'm healed enough to help you? You saying I won't be emotional about it at
Well,
all?
I'm not saying you're not going to be emotional about it at all, but not to the place where you can't continue to share.
Okay.
One time I could not share this story without crying, without it triggering me back, um, without it taking me back to a dark place.
Hmm.
So when I say emotional, I don't mean to not have emotions at all, but to the place where it doesn't disrupt what I'm doing
I get
and
it.
what I'm
Okay.
sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like Les Brown often says this too. He says, when you are telling a story, make sure that it's not a story that you can't come back from. So if they're all speaking, and he teaches people about sharing their story to earn income. So he'll say, don't ever share a story that you're so far gone that you can't come back and finish the rest of the story that you're trying to share. So I think that speaks to what you're speaking to as well. When you're healed enough to be able to say, this is my heartache and heartbreak, but also here's how I've gotten through some of it, and here are my tips to help you. So I love what you're saying.
Yes.
All right. So let's see. Some more comments came in. And thank you all for your active participation in today's episode here. In order to heal, you must feel, is what someone typed. Thank you, Facebook user. And Vanita said, thank you. I am so sorry for what you had to go through too. Yeah. Oh, your Pastor Selwyn Davis is on, and he said, that's my classmate, my sister, my friend, and I'm super proud of you.
Thank you so much, Selwyn, Pastor Davis.
I know you got to call him Pastor. You're right. So, but he's a great friend, and I actually love their family so much. I just put the link in the comment section for any of you that are in the studio audience that would like to pop on and actually say something head to head with our guests. Feel free to use that link, copy and paste it in your browser. All right. And Pastor Selwyn Davis is the pastor at Servant Church, North Carolina, right in Charlotte, North Carolina. So if you all are visiting, no matter where you are in all of the different countries, if you're in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, definitely visit Servant Church and you'll have a great experience. All right. Hard to build a home. Dr. Richard Serrano is on, and he has a show, him and his wife, Dr. Nefertina Serrano, and they talk about marriage and the covenant of marriage. And so this is probably a great topic even for their platform as well. And they have an emergency rescue line for marriages that are struggling and they need emergency rescue help. Definitely check out Dr. Richard and Dr. Nefertina Serrano. There's help for you. And you may not have to even end your marriage if you can get this kind of help. Hard to build a home is what he said. Yeah. Easy to buy a house. That's what the first part is.
Yes.
Easy to buy a house, but it's hard to build. And that goes back to the other piece. Hard to build a home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Theo says, great show. I'm assuming you're saying the greatest show on earth, the Kim Jacobs Show. Thank you, Theo, for being here today. Yes, you all can definitely send stars to the Kim Jacobs Show anytime if you want and enjoy the content. Feel free to do that. And also, anyone that is interested in donating to the Kim Jacobs Show, we have ways that you can do that through for the audio podcast listeners, because we also are on iHeartRadio and Spotify and different places. You can do Cash App $ Kim Jacobs Inc. or PayPal.me/Kim Jacobs Inc. or Venmo at the Kim Jacobs Show. And you can also be a Patreon member, which gives you exclusive private content that I don't put anywhere else. Patreon.com/the Kim Jacobs Show. How can people stay connected with you? Because I want to make sure in the first half and the second half they know that, Sandra.
DealingHopeNotDope.com is my website. You go there and you are instantly connected with everything that I'm doing. And yeah, so that's where you need to go.
Okay. I'm actually going to go there myself because I love this website. So I'm going to go here and pull it up for you guys so y'all will see where you're going. And I'll put the link in the comment section too, so you'll know. But as I'm pulling that up, what other advice do you have for people that are dealing with depression? Because you said your dad had a mental illness. So I would like for us to talk about that some and give you that platform to do that.
Okay. And I want to say to everyone that, what you're experiencing may not be God sent, but it certainly can be God used. Mm. And I wouldn't trade my journey. I want people to know that, because there's purpose directly connected to the pain. That's why it's so important to get the healing so you can do the work. I need to say that.
I'm glad you're saying that, because there are so many things that we experience that we don't want to have happen in our lives. And God already knew it would happen, obviously, because he already knew and foreknew and predestined some of the things that we would experience. We already know this. But
Mhm.
the thing is, some things, like, I know for me, I wouldn't have my 5 children if I didn't get beyond the fact that I was already told that I would never have children. But God had a different plan. So even though I was told one thing, I was actually given another thing by God.
Right. And I went to college. My dad, to to tr- to trying to understand what was going on with my dad, because I didn't understand,
Mhm.
drove me into the degree, drove me to school to major in psychology to
Wow.
get some understanding as to why it was the way it was, because surely a person doesn't want to hurt what they created. And so I needed answers. And the weird thing about it is, when I came out of college, a month after I came out of college, my dad had his first break and ended up in the hospital um, with depression.
But at that
Well,
time, you didn't even know that it was manic depression. You had no idea that it was manic, bipolar, depression, none of that. You just knew something was off.
right. And this is the testimony. I took care of a dad that couldn't take care of me for 12 years.
I remember that. I read that. That's why I didn't want to share that in your bio, because you turned around and did something that most people would never do. The man that you shared that really did a lot of breaking and damaging in your life, you turned around and became his caregiver.
Yes.
When we come
Yes.
back after this commercial break, everybody, we're going to hear how Sandra turned around and did something miraculous to help her dad. I'm so impressed with what God has done through you. So I cannot wait to hear more. We'll be right back. We'll be right back. All right, everyone, we're back, and that is one of our new episode sponsors. And I'll put the information up because they have mushroom and coffee mixed together some kind of way. And so you definitely want to check out these products. And they've had rave reviews, and it's HTTPS :// vproducts.store. Vproducts.store. If you ever get a chance to talk to them, let them know the Kim Jacobs Show sent you their way, and get your mushroom coffee combination, okay, so that you can get some benefits from it. All right. So tell us what transpired. Your dad, right after college, he went into the hospital. How did you end up becoming his caretaker?
God had to sneak it on me. I didn't know I was, truthfully, because in my mind, I'm still bitter at this point.
Of course.
I'm an adult. I'm an only child. I'm gonna check on mom, but I'm going to Hotlanta and live my life. I'm not gonna deal with the dad. I don't have to deal with you now because I'm an adult.
Right.
However, in that month's time, he ended up in the hospital. He was dating, someone else, and she called and said, "Your dad's in the hospital." And I said to myself, "Well, he better get well really quick, because I'm out of here." But what turned out to be one hospitalization turned out to be 32 hospitalizations,
Oh.
and 12 years later. And she didn't stick around. She did not stick around. And
She
so,
meaning the girlfriend.
right,
Okay.
right, right. She didn't stick around. But backstory, this was also the woman he was involved with when we left. This is the
Mhm.
woman he wanted.
Mm.
Yeah. So I just want to say that. And
You're freezing some over there too on your phone. I don't know. I can't control it on this end, but you're doing such a great job. I didn't even want to tell you, but it's
okay,
kind of freezing a little bit here or there.
yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Just keep right on talking. It catches right back up some kind of way. So go ahead.
Okay, and so you know, the family was like, well, his siblings pretty much was saying that, well, you just went to school for this. It's your dad, so you take care of him.
So family started reaching out to you and saying, step in. It's time for you to step in. But those same family members didn't know your full story of what was happening in your life with him growing up, did they? Or did they?
They had some idea.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But and I want to say this, a lot of times we run away from what we don't understand, you know. And I'm going to encourage people to educate themselves about mental health and mental wellness and mental illness, because the more we know, the less likely it will be we'll shy away from it, or it'll be a stigma attached. And so all I had was information, you know, and I went in angry, but in that 12 years, God gave me the opportunity to forgive my dad, and to tell him that I forgave him, to write him a letter, and all of those things. And so at the end, I had a peace, you know, when he transitioned, I had a peace that surpassed all understanding, because I truly forgave my dad, and I told him I did.
And now when he passed, what had transpired for him to have to leave the earth here?
He had a massive heart attack at the age of 58.
Doggone. Oh my gosh. Okay. But now he was with you at this point?
No, he was actually in his home, but I would be there daily.
Okay. So you became his caregiver, going to take care of him, seeing after him. That lasted for about 12 years, right? Where
Right.
you and so he knew that you were going to the extremes to take care of him, and he knew how he had behaved over the years. What was he grateful? Was he thankful? Was he beyond the ability to deal with that because of the mental stuff he was going through? What was the relationship like in that 12-year span?
The relationship, he never showed gratitude. He was
Mm.
still that same person, you know, but I had to honor, you know, honor the fact that scripture said, honor thy mother and thy father.
Yes, one of the
And
10 commandments.
and I asked God, I said, God, how can I honor a father that didn't honor me? How can I do that? I can't do that.
My cousin just spoke on that. There was a 10 commandment event at her church yesterday, and she spoke on the fifth commandment of honoring mom and dad. And she specifically spoke about the fact that her mom was honorable throughout her whole life, but her dad had done some things that made him less honorable from her perspective, but she still needed to honor him some kind of way. So that's kind of, it's very different scenarios, but what you're saying speaks to that same type of thing. Your dad was doing some things that were less honorable and definitely could have just had you walk away, but you in turn still honored him. And what did God put in your spirit pertaining to that? Because I would love to hear that outcome.
God said to me, I'm your Abba Father, and I will honor you as you honor him.
Whew. So once you had that message, that gave you the hope and the inspiration to start walking in that purpose.
Yes.
And you just ignored when he was being rude, or how did you just get to, look, I'm here to help you no matter what you think about it. I'm here for you. How did you get to that point?
I'm not going to sit here and say I was happy. I ignored it, because there were times when I could, and there were times when I had to address it, but not in a disrespectful way, you know. And I didn't do it perfectly. And I want to speak to somebody, because the enemy makes us think that we have to be perfect, and there is no perfection, right?
Nope.
But I stayed for the test, and God rewarded me in the fact that I stayed for the test.
I'm glad you stayed for the test. And I know I have my dad my dad and my mom were divorced throughout my life too. And I'm saying it's similar. I was like, I really want my dad to appreciate the fact that he had this daughter. I'm doing great in school. I'm senior class president. I'm a cheerleader. I'm doing all these things. And I'm out here striving to be a great daughter, but wasn't recognized at that level from him. But I would go and meet with him at a local bar every day after I got off the school bus, sit beside him and just kind of motivate him and share some motivational messages and stuff. Well, fast forward, he became a bishop. And part of his transformation in life was him saying that you doing that, Kim, helped change the trajectory of my life. So sometimes as young people, we don't even know that what we're doing, what you're doing, going to college, getting your degrees and all of these things is helping your dad in his own way, you know?
And I will tell you this. He transitioned September 25th, 2006. And I finished my master's degree in counseling with an emphasis in mental health October 14th. But he knew about it. And he looked at me that Friday and transitioned that Monday. And he said to me something he had never said before. He said, "You have a good job." He said, "You've gotten your master's degree. You have a nice car. You're doing well for yourself." He said, "You don't need me anymore."
Wow, you're going to make me cry, Sandra. Wow. And that's what he said as some of his final parting words to you. That's amazing.
That was that Friday, and that Monday he was gone. God said to me, he said, "You know, we like the promises.
Yeah.
We like the prosperity."
Yeah.
He said, "But the most important thing is the process."
That's right.
Don't curse your crises because it's preparing you for something great.
Don't curse your crisis. Y'all, somebody type that. Don't curse your crisis because it's preparing you for something great. But we don't, because we only know in part, we don't know what the piece of that puzzle is in our lives until God finally reveals it. My dad, Sandra, he actually, when he passed, I was at his bedside, which is unheard of. It's no human way possible for me to be at my dad's bedside when he's leaving this earth. There's no human way possible for that to happen. But his final words to me, he said some funny things. Like he told me some stuff not to do because somebody had a braided wig, and he was like, "Kim, don't buy no hair." I was like, "What? I don't think you need to focus on that right now, Dad. You're getting ready to take the last." He was saying all kind of stuff to me, and I was like, "This is not a funny moment." But one of the things he told me to do is to come here. He said, "Come here, come here, come here." And I went up really close to hear what he was saying because it was some of his final words. My aunts were in the room and other people heard it too. He said, "Kim, you'll always be my daughter." And that made my heart just leap for joy because God knew I needed to hear those words before he left this earth. So that was like a gift from God to me, that he would let me hear my dad say that even though I've been remarried for 30 something years, raised a whole nother family and a whole bunch of stuff that I had some issues kind of growing up. I was like, what? What am I, dog meat over here? I'm your daughter, you know? But for him to take those last moments and say, "You'll always be my daughter." That blessed me. That blessed me, Sandra, you know?
I know it did. I know it did. Because, you know, when he said it to me, you know, that Friday and was gone that Monday, I was like, wow.
You don't need me anymore, meaning that I've been here all of this time. You've seen some of his worst moments in life, some of his best moments because you became his caregiver. But at the end of it, you were there with him on this journey. I want to share your website for a second because this website is just epic to me. So let me just pull this up. And what can people glean from your website? I see your books. I just think this is a great, I'm going to put it full screen for a second. So when you all go and visit this website, which is called, tell them what the website is called.
DealingHopeNotDope.com.
dealinghope.dope.com. And I'm going to put it in the comments section for you all to be able to visit. You'll be able to get books. Tell them about your 3 books there.
Sure. Since we're talking about the trauma and the depression part, my first book is To Hell and Back: The Power of Forgiveness and Redemption. And this book is it's my testimony. This is my chronicle. It chronicles my life, my
I'm going to put it
experience.
on the screen too.
Yeah, my experiences, and I went from being pitiful to powerful. And it talks about the power in forgiveness and redemption. I had a hard time writing this book because I didn't want people to know my story. God dealt with me. He was like, I dare you hide the fact that I healed you in your emotions. You're not going to sneak a healing from me.
That's right. That's right.
And I kept you so you could do the work, so you could bring me glory. And so that's the first book. The second book is entitled Good Grief: The 5 Stages of Grief and How to Effectively Navigate Through the 5 Stages. Understanding that death is not final for the believer. It's merely see you later. And my new book, which I'm having a book signing on Saturday here in Lee County. Yay! My first book signing.
Don't forget Lee County's in South Carolina, y'all, if y'all seeing this in another country.
Yeah. It's called Give Up to Glow. It's a motivational piece. All of my books were written in the pandemic. God said it's time for you to get busy doing my work. And so Give Up to Glow is a motivational piece. I'm super excited about this book. Every time I read this book, I ask God who wrote the book, because I didn't write it.
Give Up to Glow. I love that. I love it.
And so it talks about the 6 things that we need to give up in order to win in every area of our life. So post-pandemic, per se, God said people have gotten stuck. We've gotten stuck watching other people's lives. And I need you to jolt the people and say, what are you doing with the time that you still have left?
That's right.
And so he gave me 6 chapters. We need to give up perfect timing. There will never be a perfect timing. Life will always be lifing, right?
Yes.
We need to give up comparison. What a joy it is to just be you. We need to give up our age. How old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? When God gives you a vision, he's not checking your birth certificate or your death certificate. He's checking your faith certificate.
Oh my gosh. Y'all better put some emojis over there in the comment section. This woman preaching. Go ahead. Go ahead.
We need to give up people. At every bus stop in life, somebody has to get off. It's okay to outgrow people. We need to give up fear. Fear is simply false evidence appearing real. Fear keeps you living a good life when God wants to give you the great life. And we need to give up our past. Revisit your past, but don't reside there.
Oh my gosh. I am so okay. You know what? That right there. I see comments coming in too, so I'm gonna definitely acknowledge y'all's comment. Let me I just wait a minute. I gotta find one thing, because this right here is just I was trying to find some copyright free, because if you play certain things on here, you'll have a whole problem, right? So you can't play any old thing on your live stream. But this right here, this is copyright free. Can y'all hear that? Yes. You know what? That just brings out a praise in my spirit to hear you talk about those things that's in this book. You all definitely get a copy of this book. The launch is happening this weekend. Give Up to Glow. But you can also get a copy of her other 2 books as well, and walking you through the stages of grief. All of this can be found. And let me make sure we put this: dealinghopenotdope.com. Somebody type that: dealinghopenotdope.com. Okay. All right. So somebody put that over in the comment section, and they can get all 3 of these books right on your website, right?
Right on the website.
Okay. And tell them the titles one more time, because I can't see it over there that good. What the
Okay, it's to hell and back, the power of forgiveness and redemption,
Okay.
good grief, and give up to glow.
All right, y'all. And this is where you go to get this information. I put it in the comment section, but you're going to stay connected with Sandra. Dealing Hope, not dope.com. This is just everything. Dealing Hope, not dope.com. And you can get any of the books. Do you autograph those books as well?
Yes.
Okay. So make sure you go and get a copy of those. Let's see. I see Lady Cassandra Davis. And let me, where's my comment with Lady Cassandra? I love, love, love Lady Cassandra Davis. She said, hey, Sandra.
Hey, Lady Cassandra, how you doing? Thank you so much.
She said, okay, don't curse your crisis because it's preparing you for something greater. And she also typed to make sure that we put dealinghopenottdope.com. And yay, Lee County, y'all, in other 100 countries and 350 million households that watch this and stream on your Roku and stuff. Lee County is in South Carolina, everybody, just so y'all know. All right, revisit your past, but don't reside there. Now, Vanita said, I never got to say goodbye to my dad because my grandmother would not tell me what hospital he was in. Can you address that by chance? Because that has to plague a person too.
Yes. Okay, so in good grief, and I'm not advocating you get good grief, but I'm just going to tell you there's a
Yes,
space.
you are advocating. I'm sorry, I almost choked on my water. Yes,
Okay.
you are.
Yeah. So
let me be her agent, okay, for a minute. Everybody go that's tuning into the Kim Jacobs show right today. Take a moment, and I'm advocating, okay? I'm advocating that you go and get a copy of the book that she's about to speak pertaining. dealinghopenottdope.com. I'm advocating that you get all 3 of her books, get them today so you don't forget. And that way you have them in your library. So when you need the resource, it's there. All right, carry on.
So in good grief, there's a space where you can write a letter to your loved one that has transitioned. And it gives you the opportunity, because I want to reframe how we see death, because death is not final for the believer. We don't hope as other people hope, right? As there is no hope. And so you want to write the letter to him. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a nice letter. You want to be as honest and transparent as you can possibly be with writing this letter.
Yep.
But in the end, what happens is you get the emotions out. That's right. And you get them on paper, and it's a release.
That's good.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. I had to do a segment one time to present an idea to this like a matchmaker program or thing. But I was actually suggesting, and I think Pastor Selwyn and Lady Cassandra helped me with this too. But I was suggesting as one of the ideas that you kind of have a funeral and put some things together, letters, pictures of different things to kind of get past some of the things that you've dealt with in your past. And not every situation will you get a chance to get forgiven or the person ask you for forgiveness. So in those cases, you still have to figure out how to memorialize it, finalize it, and bring it to closure in your life some kind of way. So I recommended just putting it all together in a funeral service type of thing and calling it, putting it to rest, letting it be buried in order for you to be able to move forward. So this is great what you're saying, writing a letter as intense as it needs to be. And I've done that too. I have some letters here. I haven't mailed them, but I'm like, Lord, when I pass, they'd be like, what in the world kind of letter was that? This was from the heart of hearts, okay?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Vanita, I need to tell Vanita that you have to give yourself permission to heal. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when we're not validated in our homes, we're waiting for the person to apologize, mm-hmm. or to say that they're sorry or give us an explanation. The only thing you need to do is give yourself permission to live the life that God died for you to have. Yes. He can't help you. Now you have to help you. And for years, I would go back looking for my dad to say those magic words. and he never would. And every single time I would come back brokenhearted and disappointed all over again. And Holy Spirit said he's incapable of giving you what you need.
Wow.
And sometimes our expectations of people is too high. We break our own hearts out of our own expectations.
That's right. They're
Yeah.
not even trying to break your heart at that point. They're just trying to live their best life.
Yeah. So I need to say that, sometimes people are giving you the very best that they have. I believe and know my Father loved me in the way he knew how.
That's good.
Yeah.
But it was limited to that. We only know what we know. And so whatever help he did or didn't get, he only had the limited knowledge of what he had. And so you did the rest by going to get your own self educated and having more grace and mercy towards him. And that's a blessing from God. What other things that you wanted to share maybe on today's episode that you haven't had a chance to say? I know there are things that are going on in your personal life that you may want to share as well. Your book signing, we talked about that, and we talked about your education. Any other tips you want to share?
I think we talked about the depression, and I need to say this. Women, it is okay to not be okay. We're not robots. We're not bionic. We wear many hats, and so many of the women that I see sitting on the couch is a person that's out of balance and has overextended themselves. So I need to speak to that. And no is a complete sentence. If you don't set limits for people, including your family,
that's right,
there will be no limit set. And setting limits say to people that you value you.
That's right.
So I need to say that first. We have been taught to lead while we bleed. But what happens when you're bleeding on the people that didn't cut you?
That's right. Everybody don't deserve that. And even the person that cut you, like you said, because of their limited understanding of who they are, they don't really even need to deserve to be bled on, if that makes sense.
Right. So take a step back and take care of your mental health. Check in with yourself. Check in to see how you're sleeping, your eating habits. Check to see if you have a loss of interest. Are you isolating? People that are depressed have a lot of digestive issues. It presents itself in that way. So check on you. Yes. And find your safe space. Identify your safe space. I tell people counseling is necessary. That's self-care at its finest. It's at its finest.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to leave those tips out there. And actually, October 14th, I will be in Charlotte at a summit as a speaker.
Okay.
So I will be in the Queen City on October 14th, Saturday. Master Coach Torlinda Smith, who I did my life coach certification through, and she's under Maxwell.
Okay.
She is having her summit, and it's a women empowerment day. And so the information is out there, and if you guys would like to come and get empowered, show up.
Y'all get to hear Sandra Gamble if you show up on October 14th. And I should also let you all know too, on October 28th, I'm actually receiving a presidential lifetime volunteer award in Virginia Beach, Virginia. So there's information out there about that too. So please, if you're able, I definitely want you all, Pastor Selwyn and Lady Cassandra. I guess I don't know if the show is the right time to ask you, but anyway, I want y'all to come if possible. But y'all come and be a part of it. If you're watching this as a replay and it's not one of these dates that we're talking about, just enjoy today's episode. How about that? Okay, because I definitely will be replaying this episode. This information has been a game changer for people that have tuned in, and I want people to know how to stay connected with you one more time for sure.
DealingHopeNotDope.com. I'm also on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram as Sandra Gamble.
It's Sandra Gamble. So you all can stay connected with her through her name, Sandra Gamble, and that's Gamble for those that are on the audio podcast. And then Dealing Hope, Not Dope, is where you would be able to also connect with her. All right. I do want to take a moment to thank you for being here again today. You are an incredible guest. And I welcome you to come back and be even one of our Freestyle Friday experts. We have experts that come on Fridays and they talk about 5 to 7 minutes worth of tips or so. And hope is a topic. We need a hope Freestyle Friday expert. So hopefully you will accept that as my formal invitation for you to be one of our Freestyle Friday experts.
I'll be happy to.
Is there anything you didn't say? You know how you said, dog, I should have said this and I didn't get to say it. Anything?
Yes. The one thing I would like to say to whoever's listening here is that there is more. You know, somebody is waiting on your yes. And so that's why it's important to do the work. Heal so you can go out and help because somebody else is waiting on your yes.
That's good.
And I remember when I didn't want to write the first book and God dealt with me, he said, do you want blood on your hands? You're holding up somebody else's deliverance.
I'm glad you said that. You needed to say that. So do not hold up somebody else's blessing because he's trying to use you to help bless somebody else. And that's I have a picture here too that I wanted you to speak about for a second too, because I have some of these photos from you and they're incredible too. So let me pull that up. And if you could tell us what this photo is and what it means to you. Let's see. There we go.
Oh, that was the pitiful little girl. Yeah, that I was in a Cinderella dress, but I certainly didn't feel like Cinderella.
Wow. I wasn't sure what that image was when I was looking. I was like, oh my gosh, I think that's you when you were younger. So a picture doesn't always reflect what's going on. Well, it does show you probably in your real heart what was going on at that season of your life. Wow. Okay. And what about this image?
This is me doing the work. This is me being outside, meeting people, loving on people, and dealing hope.
And you do that throughout the community. Where do you do that?
I go everywhere. You know, I do a lot of pop-ups and I do speaking engagements. I'm all about women empowerment. So anywhere.
Anywhere that you can find, let God use you to his glory is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
That's great. Okay, and let's see. This is I have one more picture I wanted to put because this was really is that I see just some random pictures too, but I'm gonna put this one right here up and
Okay.
if you could speak to that one. This has been incredible having you on today. And thank you all in the studio audience too for being such involved, active participants today. I greatly appreciate each of you. The show couldn't be what it would be without each of you all. So let's see, what is that image as well?
This is my mother. This is my shero. My strength. Yes.
And your mom, and she was a teen mom, so no wonder y'all look kind of young. I'm like, that I did not, I would have thought, I know you're a single child, so I was like, I don't know, is this an aunt? This is your mother. Are y'all really close now together?
Yes.
Aww.
Yes, that's my heart in human form.
Oh my gosh, that's how I feel about my mom too. So that's your heart in human form. You have the best quotes that I think I've ever heard a guest say. And if they're all your quotes, you need to be putting a book of quotes together just so that people can use them. Because I'm going to go back and be like, what'd she say? What'd she say? Your curses at the crisis and all of this. You got some great quotes over there. Listen, everybody, too. I want you all to know that Gabe's Heart Foundation, we are officially having our 5K walk coming up on September 23rd. And again, if you're looking at this as a replay and it's beyond that date, just know that you can still always donate. And our donations are going towards putting defibrillators, those portable defibrillators, in every public space possible, because my son died of sudden cardiac arrest. And I do not want any other parents or children to have to not have time together on this earth just because it could be 12 to 15 minutes for somebody to arrive when there could be a portable defibrillator that's already there that can maybe help extend the life. I believe God has timing for everything anyway. So let's be very clear, when it's our time, it's our time. And my son Gabe is not lost. He's in heaven. And I know that. But I just want you all to have the opportunity to participate in giving and even being able to walk virtually or in person on September 23rd for our 5K walk. And we're raising funds for that purpose to put the defibrillators in public spaces where youth congregate. All right. And that's the QR code if you want to scan it, and it'll take you right where you can. Just take a picture of it. It'll take you where you can give. And we appreciate your contributions. All right. Any closing thought?
Again, remember, it's okay to not be okay. Nobody's coming to save you. It's up to you to heal you.
All right, everyone. That's today's episode. And I want to give tribute and honor to all of those. I have it on my Facebook page, to all of those that have passed away in remembrance of 9/11, and also those that are the survivors of those family members. Many have become firemen and police officers and things in honor of their parents. And you can see that special on CNN. And make sure you know that we will never forget what happened on 9/11, 2001. Life changed forever for us, but it's also still hope that we can have the resilience and the togetherness. Race didn't play a factor when it came to this moment in time. We all rallied together and supported each other during 9/11. So please remember those that have fallen and those that are still surviving. Okay. All right, everybody. That's today's episode. Thank you, Sandra.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody. Thank you in the virtual studio audience, and have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Oh, tomorrow, the lady, the kidney goddess. This woman's story, you don't want to miss. She's going to be on tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Kim Jacobs Show. The kidney goddess. Tune in. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show, and for being in the virtual studio audience. Your presence truly does make a difference, and I look forward to you